This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description. Hello and welcome everyone to our 214th session of HalloCasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Yuval Golan from Miami, Florida. Yuval is founder and CEO of Waltz, revolutionizing real estate investment in the US. Waltz makes financing and purchasing a US property surprisingly simple and fast, all in one platform, and it guides you through a clean paperless app-like experience. No more overwhelming paperwork, signatures, and surprises. Just waltz in, waltz out, and the property is yours. Yuval is a highly experienced investor, advisor, and entrepreneur with a strong track record in real estate, finance, fintech, venture capital, and over the years he has played a key role in supporting early stage startups and high growth companies, helping them refine their strategies, scale internationally, and attract investment. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing with us your story today. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate the intro. Later, I'll have my mom listen to this, so she'll be very proud of me and what people read about me. So, brief background, I was born in Israel a long time ago. I left about 20 years ago. My favorite game when I grew up was Monopoly, and I was even winning some competitions, which was lots of fun for me, not for others. And it took me quite a while to realize what was Monopoly in real life. You start buying property, rolling the dice, buying cash doesn't really exist in real life. It's much more bigger pain. I lived in Europe for a few years, in Asia, Middle East, and Latin America. It's my second company. And basically, at the peak of COVID, I saw the largest exporter of everything, which is China, that it was going to shut down, which meant inflation, no logistics, no construction workers, and no construction materials. So I said, okay, I have to buy real estate before it becomes too expensive. And everyone and my friends thought I'm crazy. People were leaving the big cities. And I looked at the skyline. And I was like, look, there's Goldman, Blackstone, Apollo, BlackRock, Credit Suisse, big banks, HSBC. This is not going anywhere. And I tried to buy real estate in 8 countries. It was like the Monopoly board, but rejected for can't open a bank account unless you're a resident. This country doesn't accept foreigners buying properties. This country has very high restrictions on currency exchange. So I said, okay, let's go to New York, the most global city in the world, financial capital markets, and try to get my first property. And it was a big pain. It was an excruciating process of about 8 months of torture. Now imagine no consulates open, so no closings, no visa renewals. The banks are doing their thing. Applying was very difficult as well. So after 8 months of torture, I succeeded and bought my first property over there, in addition to others that I had in other places. And I was okay, this can be real. This is a global problem. And the US market is a blue chip market that everyone tends to invest in. When the market goes down, wealthy people invest. When the market goes up, everyone invests. And people just like yourself are busy. They want to do the things they like and they don't want to deal with bureaucracy. They'll pay extra or someone to deal with this for them. And they don't want to be a project manager. So I said, okay, let's learn how to streamline that in a click experience.
8 months for someone who has a lot of knowledge, has financial expertise, knows many markets, has lived in different countries, is in venture capital. So I wouldn't say that you are someone who is not really versatile regarding understanding processes and also different cultures. Maybe you can walk us through the analog process of the cumbersome challenge of buying real estate, and only particular now for the US, because obviously you have tried in different countries, and I assume you also have an idea of rolling that out to different countries right now, your blueprint. But let's start with the one process in the US. How does it work as a non-national? And then after that, I'm also obviously interested in mortgages and finance, because you also have that on your website. But yeah, please go ahead and talk us through the process there.
All right, so let's speak about humans. Let's just have 2 humans in the loop. So let's say Yuval and Michael are 2 people that want to trade something in the good old days of barter, right? So I'm a different human. You're a different human. My story is different than yours. I may have a wife. You may have a wife as well, or you're all by yourself. and we think about things in different ways. I like this property. I'm willing to pay an X price. You love that property. You're willing to sell for another price. And that creates already complications. Now add to that two realtors, real estate agents that represent, one that represents the seller, ones that represent the buyers, that are friendly to both of us, wants the transaction to go through, but have additional characteristics and interest in the transaction. Add to that an insurance you have to buy and a title company, which is similar to Europe. It's like a third-party notary that can deal with the transaction, see the history of the house and all the title issues that may arise. Add to that a third-party appraiser that, even though Michael and Yuval believe this property has a value, may have other opinions, and we will base our transaction on the appraisal itself. Add to that an inspector that might say that Michael's house has some issues that we did not calculate for, and maybe the history of the home had things that happened that may affect the transactions. Now, add to that all these people, including us, may have a holiday, may get sick, someone may be believing in one religion and the other, and all these things turn into a big cocktail of things that happen. Now add to that a bank and a mortgage and more people and more processes and more documents. And let's say I'm not an organized human being, even though I might be, but I am. And I come from the sector as well. So sometimes they're not used to such organized files, and they're used to the user doesn't upload the documents correctly. And there's humans, they make errors. So all of these different parties and interests and different working styles and opinions might turn a real estate purchase, even the most perfect one, to a process that may take 30, 60, 90 days. Now add to that you're a foreigner from a different culture, speaking a different language, not understanding the processes, and working in different time zones. That may take 3 months, 6 months, 7 months. Add to that some financial institutions will not accept identity verification or signing documents without you being on US soil or being approved by US institutions, which means the US embassy or consulate in your home country. Now add to that the consulate is not your best friend and doesn't want to meet you immediately because, hey, Michael, let's have a drink. No, they have working hours and specific things to do. So that may introduce more frictions. And faxes and other archaic technologies, and 60, 90, 80, 180 days into a transaction, we may have closed and may have not. And add to that maybe the world, something may change, an event that causes real estate to go up, down, someone gets divorced, someone needs to send their kid to a university, someone regrets, someone says, I had enough of this, and then all of this turns into a big chaos.
It took you around like maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes to exactly name all these challenges, and it's crazy. And I think we didn't even mention the different opinions and the back and forth and understanding and the processing and the, I don't know, sleepless nights to think, hey, does actually this lawyer help me, or is maybe the mortgage broker actually good, and maybe I should also just do it myself, everything and stuff, which probably also creates another loop of just confusion and lack of confidence. And then you think, okay, actually the market goes down again, maybe I should wait or not. And then you have all these different opinions. It's crazy, I must say, that it's so difficult. And I would like to understand a little bit more regarding how you then started to create a solution around that, because you have this entire value chain of processes, these stakeholders. Probably you mapped all the decision makers, all the dynamics into that process. What was for you maybe the, let's say, quick win where you said, okay, let's start, not necessarily, sometimes it's not necessarily this beginning of the process, because that's where you logically start. Maybe you started at the end and say, okay, that's the easiest quick win. We can even provide manual service there. And then afterwards we can automate. How did you approach this entire complex process?
So thanks for that, Michael. You're very right. The idea basically was to find out, why is it so complicated? Remove the human factor. What is it so complicated from a bureaucratic or government or financial aspect of the transaction. But just like you said, I've described a perfect transaction in which Michael and Yuval already agreed on a price. It's not negotiating and other factors that may be complicated. So the idea was to basically start with what if someone buys in the US as a foreigner, what is the regulator or the capital markets, which is Wall Street, is afraid of? Because at the end, your life and my life, we have a lot of plans, but at the end, the government and the capital markets dictate the world we live in. What is the interest rate, pricing index, taxes that we pay, regulations, all these things. So I wanted to research what are they all afraid of? Because once you satisfy the rules of the chess masters, you can satisfy all the rules because that's the hardest part. The second thing is if you satisfy those rules, the bureaucracy that the clients need to deal with is being handed off to Waltz instead of the client. So we are the protector or your shield from that because we wanted to consolidate all the different paperwork that goes to different stakeholders and consolidate that into a seamless process. So the idea first was to map out, sit with regulators, sit with people from the capital markets, from banks, and see what they're all afraid of. And at the end, they're afraid of reasonable things. Some once in 50,000 people or 100,000 or 1,000,000, there will be a bad person trying to do something illegal and then turn that illegal activity into US real estate, which we don't want to happen. Second thing is there's some people that went through foreclosures, which are adults that signed an agreement and did not respect the agreement. And as a result, that causes trouble. And that person, if he's in the US, it's easy to reach. But if he's abroad speaking a different language, it's even harder. So those are the pains that we needed to resolve and make everyone feel comfortable about. So then the idea was to map out from there and the rest of the process, all the steps and the micro steps, manual and digital. So we will not risk ourselves as a company and risk the client and everyone else. So everyone will feel comfortable once we do and build the future product, which is today's Waltz.
Do you act as a fiduciary? When you say that, it sounds a little bit that you act as a fiduciary, or do you just act as, let's say, an unofficial ombudsman or a fiduciary facilitator? What's your, let's say, the backbone of your credibility, if I may ask it like that?
Okay, so you and I are around the same age. Let's go back into the past, 25 years ago. I'm like, Yuval calls Michael, maybe he's home, maybe he's not, back and forth. And then I say, hey, Michael, let's go get that Harry Potter book that just came out. And you'll be great. Let me take a bus, let me take a taxi or public transport, me too. We go to the bookstore or we try to call them, no one answers. And we get to the bookstore, oh, the book is sold out. Okay, how do we get added to the waiting list? We get added to the waiting list. And then maybe after a month or two, we get the book. If we're home, great, we got it. If not, the postman leaves something. You go to the post office. If they're open, great, you got it. If they're not, after 2.5 months, we get to the book. All of a sudden, one day we wake up, there's an Amazon. You just press the button, and after a day or 2 or 3, you get your book. Just track, where's my book? So real estate, how you look at it today is Michael and I have that transaction, and it's like Uber Eats or Rappi or Amazon, and think you would add to cart a product, and that product will answer you. You will receive your product eventually. So it's like, what the hell? What did you mean eventually? I want it now. So the idea is of Waltz is just like there's the Amazon, that there's a seller and there's a buyer. And Amazon is the logistics, the facilitation, the financing for the seller and the buyer. Waltz is just like that. It's the facilitator. We're not your partner. We're not, in means of your real estate holding. We are your partner to succeed. We are the facilitator of the transaction. We are the lender. We are the face of the bank, of course, provided by Region Bank that we partner with. We do your currency exchange, provided by several vendors, and entity formation, every single thing that you need in the transaction once you have your property or looking for your property until you close the transaction and then manage the transaction on our platform with insurance renewal, currency exchange, banking activities, mortgage payments, etc.
Walk us through it. I'm Michael. I'm based in Europe. I want to buy. Do I come to you and say, I have this particular property in Brooklyn for $500,000. Now, Waltz, please help me? Is that the process? And then what are the steps there? Walk us through.
So think about that there's a few people at a few phases, right? So you and I, we just said we just want to go traveling, right? We heard from a friend that went to Iceland. First we dream, then we start researching, we go on Google, we find locations. Then which airline flies there? Where should we stay? We plan a route. So usually people hear about US real estate from friends or from just like here on webinar or like podcasts today that people hear about from HalloCasa. And then they get to research. So some of them come to us for learning. Hey, I'm interested. What is the process? They go to our blog, they learn about it, etc. Some people said, I am ready to buy and I want to get pre-qualified for a loan. I am a human being. I have money. I claim to have this and this amount. Please give me a pre-qualification letter. So when I find my real estate agent, they will believe that I'm an eligible buyer. The third persona could be in Brooklyn. I'm looking to invest. I want to close with Waltz. And then what would happen? In the old age, you would be referred to a mortgage broker, to fly to meet a bank, then meet your lender, meet the title company, and all these things. And all of a sudden, Michael is a project manager of a project that he said, I'm paying everyone else. Why do I manage it? Instead of that, your realtor or yourself, you get on the Waltz platform. We will do your identity verification within 2 minutes, verify who you are through passport, because at the end, it's a financial transaction. We will set you up within minutes with a US-based LLC and an EIN. Why an LLC? LLC in the US is a limited liability company, which will protect you and your personal assets not to be involved with your business in the United States. And it also has tax benefits. After that, you will show us the proof that you have the funds for this transaction, the purchase agreement, everything will be uploaded and pretty like a 6-year-old kid's platform, very easy to deal with online. You will deploy an appraiser that will verify the value of the home. And according to that, we will define what is the loan amount you can get based on the cash flowing property you're going to buy. After everything is clear, you will close your loan remotely. You don't need to come to the US unless you want to. And you find your tenant through the property manager you found or through the realtor that find your tenant, and you get your cash flow that will pay for your mortgage. On the Waltz platform, you will have a bank account. If, for example, you want to convert your the Swiss franc or euro or Great British pound or reais, depending where your currencies are from, we do that in scale. So we get better terms than most individual buyers. So you can do that too. Loan is closed, mortgage is being paid, Waltz is a direct lender. Pay your insurance, everything through the platform, show up to your friends, look at my property, do your annual taxation, every single thing you need that is related to your property digitally with financial products and easily and as quickly as 30 days.
KYC, general API you might be using, some service provider. I show my passport, I do my beautiful picture with my webcam, and then we are safe there. LLC, is that, in order to understand that, probably an ignorant questions, many of my ignorant questions, is I am the only shareholder of that LLC in the end, or do you bundle different investors into one LLC because it has to be a certain LLC, or how does that work? You always set up a new LLC for me, correct?
Yeah. Of course, it's for you and up to 3 other members. If you have family members or friends or partners you want to work with, the entity is yours. No other random person you don't know end it, because it's your money, your investment.
The LLC has to be in the state of the property I'm purchasing, or do you always go by default in the state of New York? Sorry?
It's better. It's better because the US is set up to federal jurisdictions. So if, for example, you set up in Delaware, but you're doing activity in New York, you will need to report in both states your activities. So it's always better to do that in the state where you operate. Of course, if you're a professional investor that has multiple assets in multiple places, it might be the case that you have multiple LLCs and a holding company or a series LLC that manages that for you.
Now we come to the loan. Your website describes very nicely on a state level this DSCR loan. And first and foremost, I have to say I like your website because those are nice state landing pages. Like, I go to, where was it? Not Hawaii. I think Hawaii, you're talking about like surfing in where's the big NASCAR race? Like I think Illinois. I don't know. I'm not US American. So you put some cultural context. I really like that. But then obviously you go very fast towards this DSCR loan. And it's particularly interesting because you overcome the burden of being reliant on my tax returns from my home country. So you can use that, or investors can use that based on the cash flow, which is basically being generated by the property, like the cash flow producing property. Is that correct?
Yep.
But I also don't want to talk too much. Go ahead and explain it to us, please.
As you can see, I try to make everything simple. So think about your real estate investment in the US as a triangle. The triangle has three things. You as a borrower, so Michael goes through the KYC, which is know your customer and identity verification. You put a down payment and closing costs. Since we report to the local regulators, we need to be sure that the money you made is legitimate. So bank statements, savings, investment accounts, bonds, pension fund, everything that is legitimate to use that money to purchase a US property. Second angle of the triangle is the asset. Is the asset what you claim it to be valued? That's a third-party appraisal. And the third part is the asset cash flow. In the US, the appraiser will go and say, hey, according to the data that I see based on my experience, this is the projected cash flow this property can produce. Or if there's a tenant in place with that lease, if that cash flow is higher, that can help the appraiser to do its job. So once those three things work, and of course, if there's no foundation damage or all these things that we're familiar with to be fixed, that triangle is complete, and we will underwrite you on the asset cash flow and expenses, insurance, taxes, if there's a home association, costs, principal, and interest. So think it's a simple math equation. On the numerator, it's the rent. On the denominator is the property expenses. And according to that, we will define what is the loan percentage you can get.
Makes total sense. Thank you so much. And after that one, you have different players, or do you work with one exclusive currency exchange operator, or do you have different ones and you always get a quote? Because except for the one big ballpark of currency exchange, which is probably like the down payment which you need. Later on, yes, they might not be flowing that much because you keep all the money in the LLC anyways, correct? Or how does that work?
So we think that we consolidated a lot of regions and a lot of vendors into the one platform that will give you as the client the economies of scale. Because your ability to negotiate with a provider is very low, but when we do millions of dollars in currency exchanges, we pass that along to our borrower. In different regions, we work with different things, but for you, it all looks the same, and it's real time and much cheaper than everyone else and faster. Then back to that, usually people put the earnest fee. So it's the first money they put in order to lock the contract. Second phase, they will probably do the down payment. Some of them want to fix the property, so there will be repairs. Some of them take a lower amount of loans so they can have cash income balance and they can send it back home because maybe they want to use it for different purposes, support a family, want to spend money. So all these things. And then if they cash out, and when they cash out, refinance, which means when their property value goes higher, they might take a loan that will be with a higher loan to value, and that remaining balance will come out as cash that they may use to purchase a new property or take money back home.
Am I also, and now talking about taxes, you mentioned accounting and taxes. Am I then suddenly, as a European, am I then also taxpayer in the US? Do you have this random sheet in the US when you are also creating a business sheet, XYZ whatsoever, for tax exemption or non-tax exemption when you're a non-resident? Or am I totally off here? I'm just curious regarding this topic.
So it's very interesting, but important disclosure to say, I'm not a CPA, so my advice may not be used as a tax advice. I can give some brief kind of about the process. Of course, If you are generating revenues in the United States, you need to check with the local CPA. But the whole idea about cash flowing property, which is a real estate investment, the US government wanted to incentivize and still wants to incentivize investors to invest in the United States, especially in real estate. Why is that? US is a big country. Investors create jobs. Jobs of investing in homes allows tenants to rent, just like in Europe, real estate prices are expensive, and you need to incentivize investors. Once you have revenue, but you also have expenses like principal and interest and insurance and HOA repairs, those can be used to deduct one another. So you don't have to always pay taxes on your investment at all, because you can also use property depreciation, even though if your property appreciated, which is cash flow issue versus taxes issue. So you may be subject to taxes depending on the annual profit and the balance of all your expenses and the depreciation.
Playing devil's advocate, why should be my funds with you safe, or do you touch them? What is basically, let's say, if I were a risk assessor and I would say, okay, let me see if this is not the next scam. Where do you touch the law? Where are you exposed to risk? You as an entity, as Waltz, but also where am I being exposed to risk as a potential real estate buyer using your service? Can my funds just be gone because it's a different LLC, or you are also co-owning it? So give us maybe here some ideas why you, Waltz, are a trustworthy service provider.
Great questions, Michael. So let's start from the beginning. For us, a few years ago, one of the main issues that we discussed earlier was to deal with the regulator. And the other thing was, how do we market ourselves as a trustworthy B2C brand? Because at the end, it's someone from abroad that is going to put money and transfer it into a fintech company that is unknown yet. So we tested the systems, we passed through the pipes, $300 million in loan requests. We have built relationship with an FDIC insured bank, such as Regent, which is a multi-billion-dollar bank with more than 100 years history. We do currency exchange with the payment services, Visa, the global, close to $1 trillion in value. Our loans later on, our investors include larger corporations from Wall Street, and we've been in the media in multiple places. We're financially backed by world's top venture capitals and angels. So all these things built into a very strong credibility and strength. In relating to the ownership structure, we are not a member of your LLC. We're not your partner. Just like Amazon gets you the books, we just make sure that you get your things on time and everything is done. It's a similar model. We just consolidate all the compliance, legal, and financial aspects of it, so you don't need to deal with it, just like a concierge service. Just like you want to book a pizza, which is 20 minutes away from you. How do you know the driver will not eat your pizza or eat a slice? There's a trust system in it, and there's a guest service guarantee and all those things. So all these things built us into a very strong brand. And if you Google us today, you'll see we're featured on Bloomberg and Newsweek and other publications. So it's pretty straightforward. The second thing that we need to say that we don't co-invest with you in the real estate. We are a lender, a direct lender. In America, like in Europe, there's close to a few thousand lenders in the market that do different things, lending for loans, lending for homes, lending for other purposes. And we're one of those lenders that does that directly and to the client with following all the laws and regulation, which are very heavy in the United States. Talking about real estate, just like any other investments, do your due diligence. Excel eats it all. Everything looks amazing. When I look at real estate as a real estate investor myself, I look at a few different factors. One, where is the region I want to invest in? What is the specific state and city? What is the median income? What is the occupancy rate by owners? So it means people are able to purchase a home there, which just means that people can afford it, and versus tenant occupied. What is the appreciation rate in the US market, and what is the appreciation rate of that geographical location? And in the US, there's also another important meter, which is the assigned school. So if the schools are good, parents will want to live there. I also look for 3 to 4 bedroom homes, because that means that when you have a young family with no kids and have 2 work from home offices or a game room, now we'll have a kid and we'll stay in the same home. Second kid, stay in the same home. Good schools, they want to stay in the same home. So me as an owner, that will be a good things to look at. And risk stocking, a home, it is a home. It breaks once in a while. You need to replace a carpet. You might have a tenant that won't pay the rent. Be sure to invest in one of the red states that are landlord friendly. So in case someone is delaying, there will be consequences to that. Some things do not all go as planned. So just put some money aside for things like that. And just like when I joke with my friends, real estate investment compared to when you invest in Microsoft. Do you go to the local Microsoft office and knock on the door and asking who sold Windows to someone this week? No, you're like, this is what I invest in, and this is how it is.
Makes total sense, and thank you so much for clarifying this one. Let's talk Waltz and also the first steps. How big are you right now? How have you evolved? And maybe also give us maybe some first client experiences where you said, okay, actually this didn't work perfectly well. Like we had to learn the hard way, and this is how we also were able to refine the process.
So that's a great question. The key to being a strong customer-centric company, Michael, is just like your question. If you don't fuck up, you can learn. If you're not open for feedback, you can improve. So our clients and our partners, such as real estate agents, are best partners because they provide feedback about the process. So we had, when we started, a client that came from a Latin America country. That was a long time ago, about two and a half years ago when we tested the system. And there usually there's a lot of complications which relates to income and money transfers and money wires and sourcing the funds. So that taught us a lot about how to make a super streamlined, super easy, non-intrusive way to source the funds and the ability to read different clients from different regions. Some other times we work with different partners that promise certain things, and it took slightly longer than expected to close the transaction, but we wanted to guarantee always the time to the client. So we found ways how to build internal tools to detect these things. So we always try to improve and make the customer experience better. We try to work with amazing partners, just like someone that's been on your show, Scott from Remax and others, which are great people that we try to grow with together in scale.
Makes total sense. How many people are you right now at Waltz?
So we're about 40 people in multiple regions. We have, I think, more than 10 nationalities, more than 10 languages. So we're a true global company serving global people.
And because you have so much of experience regarding also ventures and startups, what is your, let's say, secret sauce regarding leadership skills, creating a strong team so that they also don't leave again, and creating maybe also a very strong, I wouldn't say corporate culture, but company culture, which also embraces the entire ideology of being credible, being trustworthy, because that's obviously what Waltz stands for, while being also a little bit playful. So on the one hand, you have to convey a strong trust, and I can see it, for example, in the footer of your website. It's very nicely, it's very, let's say, sophisticated, while the logo is a bit more playful and stuff. How do you make sure that you attract the right people for this environment, and also that you can, I don't know, help them grow and grow together?
Great questions, all relating to company cultures and people and HR. So I'll start with a brief intro. I've decided that I will implement all the bad bosses that I've had, make the culture better. All the great bosses that I had, amplify that culture. The culture in our company is open, it's direct, it's no bullshit attitude, because there's no time to waste. We're a startup, we're a tech company. If we do too much fluff, we will not focus on the core. The second thing is the quality of the people. Quality of the people. Some of the tech founders or other startup founders or other companies founders, they will say, oh, hire fast, fire fast. I said, no, hire, sorry for my French, fucking slow, and help them grow, because replacing talent is cumbersome. It takes ages to train, and then unfortunately fire them when they don't perform. And then be ahead of the curve. Make sure what they need help with. Bring them mentors in the program. Be sure they have a platform to grow, suggest ideas, be owners, be accountable. The third thing is, I don't just hire salespeople. Some people just hire sales. Oh, make sales, make revenues, close. I said, no. I have 3 rules of hiring salespeople. Not a liar, not lazy, and not stupid. We can't deal with that because it always gets you into trouble. And number 4, which is the hardest to find, especially at this age, is accountable. I can tell you proudly that the people in my company are intelligent, they're straightforward, they're accountable, and they care. And this is the culture we nurture. I don't like bullshit attitude, because if you bullshit me, you bullshit your client, you bullshit your colleague. It's in the DNA.
I couldn't agree more. And it's words we hear a lot, but living that and encountering people is much more difficult because you are hiring for character, and character is destiny. And having someone who has morally or high moral and ethical standards to say, I say what I do and I do what I say. And if I did a mistake, we all did mistakes, I come to you and say, hey, I screwed up. And then we find a solution. And because then we have, again, as you said, we are data driven. We need to make sure that we have transparency. Okay, let's fix it. Yes, you screwed up. You did a huge mistake. But okay, fair enough. We can still resolve it. Call the client, do something, I don't know, whatever has to be done. But now at least we can go into the fire and be a firefighter. It sounds easy, though, in a way. Are there certain processes for you that you say, there are methods I can check for those? I can check that, okay, I thought I know the hiring process, or which takes us maybe 4 months for this certain role, is so bulletproof, but the first team event, he did something very awkward, and I don't know anymore if he's so accountable and reliable. Have you found yourself in such a situation, and or do you think like you have found a certain proven method which you can apply in order to really qualify and disqualify certain applicants?
So, Michael, think about it this way. We all have to make mistakes. No one knows it all, and people believe knows them all are not. Probably are narcissistic, and it's not that. I made many mistakes. I'm accountable for them. I learn every day. And that's the key of being a strong leader, because you need to say, I made a mistake in front of your employees as well. Because if the CEO says it, who are they not to say it? So of course we had people turnover, people that change, people that left, and team that stays and believe in the vision.
Makes total sense. Thank you so much for the clarification here. What is the next steps for Waltz? Do you go international? Do you say, okay, we figured it out for the US, and the US is a huge market. Do you right now focus on sales in order to get like more and more people using that? Or do you say, actually, I don't know, different market is interesting, which probably wouldn't make sense because then you're encountering a new totally, legal landscape and you have no idea about the changes. But what's the vision for Waltz?
So, as you mentioned yourself, the US market is a tiny little market. It's only $50 trillion. So we're staying in the US. People have asked us to do this in Mexico and in Europe, but as yourself, as a European, and I'm a European myself, our laws are more challenging dealing with tenants. We have to beg the tenants to pay us rent. We have to beg the courts to evict them in case they don't pay, which is not business friendly. I'm an adult. I sign a lease. Society expects me to pay because I'm a responsible human being. And according to that responsibility, I was qualified as a tenant. In America, they follow those laws. So for now, we're staying in America because there's many states to work in. We work with 41 plus DC states. There's a lot of business. The Europeans are back to investing in the US because it's being run by a big CEO. The great British pound has recovered from Brexit. Euro USD now ratio is growing, so we're seeing a lot of that. So we're staying in the US. Expansion plans is Latin America. So we just launched in Latam about a month or so ago to expand our Spanish and Portuguese reach. And in English-speaking countries, we'll go back to UK and Europe. So this is what we see right now, expanding the team around the globe to support the US expansion.
How do you reach those? Do you do partnerships with portals? Do you run your own ads? Do you do content marketing? What's the best method you use?
As you know yourself in marketing, you try different things, and different geographies, different things work. So we do Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, SEO, which is on Google. But the best that works is word of mouth and referrals and people that are happy, and then they bring their friends or buy again. And our greatest partners are the real estate agents that work with foreign investors, or even with local investors that complain and say, hey, why only foreigners? I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't want to leave my office. I have a full-day job. Just do this for me as well. I also want a concierge service. So real estate agents, mortgage brokers, turnkey providers, property managers, these are amazing partners that work with a lot of clients, and that works as well.
Sounds super valid. What's your revenue model? Do you take a cut? Do you have a flat fee? Do you have an initial fee, a combination? What is it that you're charging, and how do you charge?
So think that real estate is a very traditional industry. Anything you change, and might change the equation, you will change consumption behavior. And the last thing you want is the client to be scared, or the real estate agent. So we basically took the things that the clients are used to paying: entity formation, bank account, interest rate on a loan, origination fees, insurance, and we consolidate them into one platform. So for the numerical example, to open an entity in the US and an EIN will be a few $100s, depending on the state. We do that. You get a loan, that will be a certain percentage, we'll do that. You will do a currency exchange, and that will be a certain spread, which means the cost of the foreign currency exchange, we do that. You want insurance, there's an insurance fee. And all these things are being consolidated into a one-stop shop platform. Then on the ongoing side, there is a platform where you can see your property, your details, you can manage your bank account, your foreign exchange, you can insure your friends the property, and a lot of other things. So the ongoing services can be the insurance renewal, the entity management, the CPA services.
Makes total sense. And do you see right now, because I talked to various people from the US regarding the real estate market, do you see it's right now stealth? Do you see it's very dynamic? Do you see a lot of influx from international investors? Where do you right now see the most movement regarding transactions?
So there's a few factors here. I think that post-COVID, no one is crazy like me to fly around the world and 8 months stop the torture and keep on buying. So a lot of the mortgages or purchase agreements were related to visas. So think that for 2-3 years, the US consulates were at bottleneck. So you cannot get a meeting. Then because of COVID, there was shortage of labor, shortage of logistics, shortage of construction materials. And that meant that construction was delayed. Now, think that all of a sudden interest went up. So that causes two things. The interest for the developer is very expensive. So to develop is expensive, so it takes a longer time to build. The interest for the consumer is higher. So some sellers don't want to sell because they need to get a new mortgage for a more expensive home. So all these factors come into effect. And people are like, oh, the interest will go down. But then all of a sudden there's inflation and trade wars. And what does that mean? That construction materials are even more expensive, which gives a lot of stress to home prices. Savvy investors always buy real estate. It's always a good time to buy real estate. The interest is high, so what? You have a tenant in place. He pays your expenses. And when the interests are very low, we've seen what happened during COVID. Everyone was a real estate investor. Interests go down, all the buyers are back, all the properties prices go up. So buy now when it's less crazy and refinance later.
Yuval, thank you so much for your time today. I know your time is very limited, and I appreciate that you shared your story with us. I think it's very impactful, it's innovative. You found one problem yourself which you faced. You ran the process, you are building a solution, and now you are allowing others to also use that solution on scale. I really appreciate the entire walkthrough which you allowed us to understand regarding the process, the problem, and then also what we have to consider and all the elements which you are taking care of. And yes, we are living in an Uberized world. The normal person hates bureaucracy, and we like to do the one-stop shop and the one-click experience. And we are happy to pay for that. I'm sorry. Thank you so much also for sharing your leadership approach, for understanding that you have figured out a way to not only attain very good talent, but also to maintain it and to allow them to grow while embracing the startup culture. And finally, I really appreciate that you gave us an overview regarding the risks which you are exposed to, obviously, and how you also weather them or counteract against them so that you ensure that everything is safe, both for you as an entity, and also you articulated for us very clearly how safe it is for the end user. And finally, you gave us a very nice overview regarding the state of the market and also your tendencies regarding the next steps. Is there anything you would like to share with the audience which we haven't touched upon yet?
Hey, Michael, first, let me thank you. This was very good and appreciate your time. And I think you asked amazing questions, so we covered everything.
Perfect. How can people reach out to you if they are interested to either use your service or also get in contact with you personally?
The best way to do it is to get on our website, which is www.getwaltz.com, www.getwaltz.com. And feel free to write us, leave a form, leave a feedback, apply for a loan, start now. And then feel free to reach out to me if you're a real estate agent or a client, and I refer you to the right team member. That is sales@getwaltz.com, sales@getwaltz.com.
Perfect. I will put this one also into the show notes. And yeah, sending the best regards to Miami, Florida, and a big hug.
Thank you. Big hug. Thanks, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.
This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description.